Welcome to episode 57 of the Brew Crew Scoop. It is Monday, June 16th, off day for the Brewers. Brewers are 39 and 34, in second place in the NL Central, coming off a nice series against the Cardinals. And finally, the last few weeks, everything has seemingly been trending upwards. So, good spot for the crew, and a spot where a few weeks ago I would have been ecstatic to hear that we're at.
Yeah, there's a super alternate universe where we are actually having this current podcast because Mark Antanasio sold some sand. We traded a slightly failing starting pitching prospect with a couple of okay prospects from our farm, and we just brought in Rafael Devers. So in that universe, this would be a hell of a podcast.
Yeah, it would seem. Uh, like we should touch on that for sure, even though it has nothing to really do with the Brewers. Rafi Devers with about a decade left in his contract after kind of throwing a fit. Uh, Red Sox said, "See ya. You weren't. This wasn't the ownership group that signed you. Get out of town." Traded him to the San Francisco Giants. So
Yeah, it is
big
just
news.
crazy. Like if we had a little money, he how good of a fit he might be with this team, just based on
Hmm.
his profile and what we don't have. But we don't live in that world, so just kind of sucks. And when you look at what we could offer relative to what it took to actually get him, but obviously part of that is like a money dump. But very interesting deal. And
Yeah,
honestly, it could affect the Brewers, right? The Giants
I,
are going for a wild card, so um, they got better.
I could see that contract aging poorly just because he
Oh yeah.
already is not a good defender. So even if he it's a lot of money for only DH, and even if he plays defense, it might be a net negative, in my opinion, especially at the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of like what you said. Scoop goes as something that really doesn't affect the Brewers. I mean, if you look at the wild card standings, like just in this moment right now, like pretty sure we're still chasing them, or we're tied, or they're one game ahead of us. This is something that could swing, one or two games their way if things go right. So a huge move like this in the National League is big, no matter what, especially for a team that you're. I mean, we're in the middle of June, but still you never know who's going to be fighting for that last wild card spot, whether it's us or the Cubs or the Dodgers, Padres, Giants. Rafael Devers makes the Giants better, in my opinion, especially in this moment right now. We don't need to worry about 8 years from now, but right now, I think he makes them quite a bit better.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. I don't mean it doesn't affect the Brewers at all. I mean,
Yeah.
the trade is not Brewers related, but yes, 100%. We're
But
definitely going to be in the mix with those two or with that team in the wild card standings this year,
there
seemingly.
there is a Brewers trade that isn't quite as wasn't quite as league shattering, but Aaron Civale got his birthday wish.
Yeah.
Well,
Aaron,
actually, I don't know if he got his birthday wish, but he got part of it. He did get traded. I don't know if he loves where he wound up, but I did see the White Sox said they are going to try to move him again. So,
yeah, I'm assuming everyone listening knows, but Aaron Civale got moved to the bullpen for The Miz and immediately requested a trade, which I guess fair enough. I can't believe how fast we moved him after that because I would have imagined we already were trying to trade him and he didn't need to request it. Send him to the White Sox and I will happily take the return in Andrew Vaughn, a guy you can non-tender next year. But he has shown a couple glimpses of being a decent major leaguer. So who knows?
former
Maybe
third overall pick, right? So,
first rounder. I don't know if it
yeah.
was that high, but
But a high pedigree guy with some
yeah,
questionable, I think off-field stuff kind of in his White Sox days, but no one's really prospered on the White Sox. So currently he was, I think, in AAA for the Sox and will probably or is headed to Nashville, and we'll see if he can find his footing and um, if we need to call upon a first base bat or something throughout the year, who knows what happens. He's a guy that at least has that big league experience and has some upside, I guess. But again, for dealing Savali, which was probably possibly even looking at a DFA or something, not going to complain.
I I love it. They're taking a flyer on a guy that they think they can. flip at the deadline in Civale, and the Brewers get kind of a wild card. And if something were to happen to Reese Hoskins or something, it's just a backup plan for them. And then, like Scoop said, there's really nothing you could just non-tender him. Like, it's just a wild card and a guy who's hit 20 bombs in the bigs before. Those guys don't really just fall from trees. So to just get anything back other than like a mid-tier prospect, I was kind of surprised, but happily surprised for sure. I
Yeah,
can't wait to see what he does in his first like couple months in Nashville. Just getting out of the White Sox organization has helped people in the not so distant past. So interested to see how he goes.
yeah, I think
And
it's
I do.
worth it just to avoid negative locker room bullpen vibes. Not that I think Savali's like was out for blood, but obviously he wasn't happy. So
Yeah, and just simply because I think that we probably have like 10 starting pitchers that I would be fine with when healthy in the rotation. It feels like so. Um, I feel like we haven't seen the end of Logan Henderson. Misiorowski is at least going to make one more start. Brandon Woodruff is close. Quintana's back and throwing good innings. Quinn Priester has been amazing, honestly. Chad Patrick had one bad start, and I hate to say it, but I'm holding my breath that it's not the start of something, just because to me he seemed to be overachieving up to this point a little bit. Not that he's been bad, but and this isn't even counting guys like Ashby and Hall who have looked good in the long rolls.
and Tobias Myers hopefully
Myers,
getting things
yeah, the other
right
guy.
in AAA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Carlos F. Rodriguez, if
yep.
is he still hurt?
I haven't seen him pitch again, but I'm not sure.
I'll look. But while I do that, Cole, why don't you give us your untouchable pitcher of the week?
You fellas are untouchable. Is that the thing? No one can get to you?
Yeah, it was a guy you were just talking about, and I wanted to talk a little bit more as well, but I'm going with Quinn Priester. 12 innings pitched, two earned, zero walks. He did give up 11 hits. That's just kind of his style. He's a 95th plus percentile ground ball guy. Well, I think like 56%. And then he had where's it 10 Ks, which was kind of a little new for him. I gave him the tiebreaker over Freddy, who also had 12 innings pitched and only gave up one earned, but Freddy had three walks and only 9 Ks with less hits. But wanted to shout out Quinn Priester because he was a guy, and I wanted to touch on this because there was a lot of hate when we made that deal. And honestly, I think all three of us were relatively cool with it. And I even talked about, I think I kind of joked that maybe we'd see him have a cutter, and I think he throws like a cutter 15% of the time now. And I think we were all in pretty good consensus that his ground ball stuff would play up with our defense. And as we've seen recently, it definitely has. And the other part of that deal is we lost Joffrey Rodriguez, and he is hitting for a 6.23 OPS with Boston since we dealt him. So who knows? Obviously, the kid's 19, so he's definitely still could make us look like fools in the long run. But Priester's been super good and served quite the valuable role for this team. And over the last since we last talked, I should say, had two very, very good outings. And he's a guy that, as long as he's out there, I don't think he can do too bad. There's going to be days where they're hitting him pretty well, but um, he has a way of finding outs. So just wanted to give Quinn Priester a shout out. And then out of the pen, Ashby and Abner both did not give up a run since we last talked, with 5 Ks each. Ashby over 6 innings and Abner over five. Abner Uribe is looking like the possible Brewers all-star in my opinion. He's looking good. And
Agree.
and we don't have too many other prospects for that right now. So
Yeah, he might be the only guy right now,
yeah.
and he would typically be fighting an uphill battle, being a setup guy, not a true closer. But that would be my vote right now. Probably the only worthy All Star. Keen, I don't know if you got anything else on the untouchable pitcher of the week, or who your pick, I guess, would be for the minimal Brewers All Stars, maybe All Star.
I would like to just refresh everybody's memory in the fact that I chose Abner Uribe to be an all-star for the Brewers last year, and then
Oh, last
ended
year.
ended up getting hurt. And I
And
wanted to say
suspended
I
and
wanted
sent
to.
down.
I realized that he had the potential to be as nasty as he's being right now, and I mean, I'm pretty sure he was everybody's pick to be the closer before
Yeah.
McGill.
Yeah.
If Devin Williams were to be traded or go down going into last year. So it's just kind of crazy how everything went, and then it just took a little bit longer than everybody thought it would. But he's the dominant guy that I don't know, kind of we expected. So he would definitely be my pick for Brewers All Star. And then you also have to throw in Mr. Frelick. I mean, his numbers aren't like they're going to jump off the page at you, but he was kind of my hot hitter, if you want to leak in there. He had another 3-hit game the other day. I saw something that he's tied for second or third in the most 4-hit games in Major League Baseball so far this year, with a million other people, obviously. But this guy's almost backing into me. Almost witnessed a crash. Um, but yeah, Sal Frelick for my hot hitter, and he would also be one of my other all stars if Abner doesn't get picked, obviously, because you said it's hard to be a pure reliever, not just a closer and get in.
Cole, who was your hot hitter of the week for the Brewers?
Stop jumping on fire, Ricky Bobby! I'm on fire! He's so hot right now.
I picked Sal Frelick. Since we last talked, he had 40 plate appearances, 11 hits, only 2 of those doubles, so lots of contact. But saw him get bumped up to the leadoff role too in a couple games, and I think that's a great role for him, probably over Churio and some of those guys, just because of Sal's ability to get on base. Like Keen was talking about those 4-hit games. So yeah, since we last talked, 5 runs, 5 RBI, 4 walks, and 3 steals. Can't complain, and I'm pretty sure I saw Sal has the highest batting average among NL outfielders. So if you're gonna start pushing a All-Star campaign, that's a nice little tagline to use there for him is best batting average. My grandpa would love that batting average fan. But yeah, we had no one really go off consistently, I guess, since we last talked, but Isaac Collins, Yelly, Sal, Churio, and Durbin all had over 700 OPS since we last recorded. So at least those guys are kind of getting it done. And I went down to 716 OPS just so I could shout out Caleb Durbin because we need him to be something at the current state of this team if we don't make a move. So yeah, pretty consistently hitting, and that was good enough to pull out some victories since we last talked. So I'm agreeing with Sal Frelick.
Yeah, maybe fighting a little bit of an uphill battle for guys that are not all stars before and don't hold any of the name value, unfortunately. But yeah,
Well, they
certainly,
got to get
certainly,
Sal. They got to get Sal in like a body issue or something, so more of the female fans can start jumping on that
yeah,
Frelick train.
maybe we should volunteer to do a body issue photo shoot of Sal
Yeah,
for
Brew
the
Crew
All-Star
scoop
campaign.
body issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm in.
Well, wait, you're in, or you're just
Oh,
in to
no, no,
push
no.
the?
No, we're gonna save ourselves for the calendars we're doing next year.
Okay,
But
for sure.
looking at the standings, Brewers are 5.5 back after taking 3 of 4 from the Cardinals at Miller Park this weekend. Um, Want to talk about a little bit of fireworks with Wilson Contreras. Um, I don't know that he backed in to Durbin intentionally. I feel like it was accidental. But he's just been such an asshole over the years, leaning into pitches and always yelling at people, and it's just like, fuck off, dude. So it feels good to take 3 out of 4 from Wilson Contreras again. Always just kind of funny with William being on the Brewers and all of his teammates like calling his brother an asshole because it is on paper. I don't know if you recall, but Yelly's Bong on Twitter. They are blocked by William Contreras for talking shit about Wilson Contreras. That went viral. They got their autograph on the printout. Um, so it's funny to me that he'll block people on Twitter for talking shit about his brother, but meanwhile, his all 25 of his coworkers are probably screaming at him out of the dugout. So, but then yeah, the game that the Brewers lost, William giving it back a little bit with a real slow home run trot and um, but anyways, electric series in Milwaukee, taking 3 out of 4, jumping the Cardinals in the standing, who are 7 games back. Brewers are 5.5 back of the Cubs right now, who are still 16 games over 500.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. And I do think that that game on Saturday might have been my favorite game just because, I feel like every time we go down by a considerable amount of runs, it's game over. It's nice to see It's also really the only game I was able to sit down and watch over the last 2 weeks. So that might be why as well. But just to see them actually score runs, I mean, it could have easily been another 20-0 blowout. Um, but it was nice to see them fight back, and then they had to use their A/B bullpen um, to get through that game. So it was a nice 3 games that we won, but the one that we lost was probably my favorite. And it just shows that this team is much different than they were at the beginning of the year, which is what you need. You just need to keep growing and growing and growing, and maybe add a Rafael Devers in the middle of the season
Yeah.
to really put you over that hump.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it,
like
it was a good week for sure. I was just gonna say I went to a game on Monday and then we went to Miz's debut and the stadium definitely had some pop for Miz and even the Monday game was like 25 something thousand people. I think every game it only went up from there. We Milwaukee turned out in the last week for the crew too, so uh I feel like summer's hitting, kids are out of school and hopefully that home field advantage can kind of play into our hand as well with the passionate fan base we have.
yeah, Reese Hoskins would be like the adult of the week, or I don't know, something like that. He seems to be a good leader in that dugout for the fiery team. Whenever there's conflict in the dugout. Um, just real quick on the standings. Brewers are 1.5 games out of a playoff spot behind the Padres right now. Also trailing the Phillies and the Giants, we mentioned. Um, just doing the rest of the news and IL for the Brewers. I did see that Carlos Rodriguez still has not pitched since May 29th. So unfortunately, um, seemingly still injured. But I don't know if you guys had anything else for Brewers news. We hit on Civale was kind of the biggest thing for the Brewers.
I know injury wise, Perkins and Mitchell, I think both reported to Arizona. And that's obviously huge to start getting those one of those bodies back, hopefully both pretty soon. And then I think it gets interesting with who stays where or moves where. But yeah, I think that's a big update. And then I think with the Savali trade and some of the other league action, I'm just curious what our approach looks like when the deadline comes. I think we still don't have a I don't think we can clearly sell. Obviously, we're over 500 and in the race for the division and the wild card. But I think I saw a tweet that maybe Bowers would be available, which I think makes sense. He's playing as good as you'd ever imagine, and he's obviously in a depth role. We now have Vaughn down in the minors, and Ernesto Martinez, I think, also has been knocking on the door with his performance this year. So between that and all those outfielders coming back, and Tyler Black, I think now is officially back in AAA as well. So um, just curious who gets moved, and I think Mitchell once he's healthy, between him and Sal, clearly Sal is starting to cement himself as a regular in this team, and Mitchell's really lack of health, but has kind of made that not the case for him. And obviously, Chury is another mainstay in this outfield. So if Mitchell doesn't pin down the third everyday role, I think he could be probably another guy we hear about. But other than that, we don't really have too many pieces to move that are major league ready, unless you consider Tyler Black major league ready, which I think is a fair assessment. And then all those starting arms we've talked about a million times. So I think that's kind of plays into future transactions. It's just those guys starting to get healthy.
Kean, I don't know if you have anything else, but I was just gonna do a beer of the week real quick. Sticker in here at this point. Beer of the week.
I'll have a brewski, Charlie. Well, there's nothing like a cold one after a long day, huh? Oh, yeah. I've been known to drink a beer or two.
Is a toppling Goliath pseudo Sue. This single
I
hop
figured
pale
that's where
ale
you were going.
showcases the citra hop for a well-balanced beer that is delicate in body with a mild bitterness in the finish. She roars with ferocious aromas of grapefruit, citrus, mango, and evergreen. Uh, if you can hear my voice, Cole and I had a bachelor party this weekend, and I chugged Cole's beer, and it was this one. I have to say, when you drink 20 ounces of it at once, it was a little bitter, a little hoppy. Um, But yeah, rest in peace, Grandpa Sherman. Um, we could do farm now. We've kind of touched on the farm a little bit, but
If it hadn't been for those meddling kids. If it hadn't been for you meddling kids. Ah, meddling kids. If it hadn't been for these meddling laddies.
I don't know if it was since last time, but I saw another prospect ranking come out with Jesus Mate and Luis Pena getting tons of love. So that's pretty cool. Um, Woody, not really farm, I guess, but I did forget to mention it before. It sounds like he's gonna get back to the minors for another rehab start soon. So
I think I saw
hopefully,
in a tweet that what he was saying it was kind of a blessing in disguise type of thing for a little break, and then he
yeah.
threw a good pen, he said, and stuff felt a little better. So I don't know if he's just trying to be the most positive guy ever or if that's true. So hopefully that's the case.
And then I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but then I got one more segment, a one-off segment to talk.
For on the farm, I think I saw Luke Adams I think he's in Biloxi, reached base for the 36th consecutive game, and he hit a grand slam in that game. So, definitely wanted to shout that out. And I think Biloxi is in first place by a good bit, looking to lock up first half, winners. And then Coleman Crow was the, Southern League Pitcher of the Week, not for the most recent week, but the one prior, with his second straight 9K, zero earned run start. And then last week he had 6Ks and two earned runs. So he's a guy I think we got from the Mets a couple of years ago. And then he got injured and missed, I think, all last year, if I recall. But he's stuff's looking pretty good in Biloxi. And then I just want to shout out, is it pronounced Seigler or Siegler in
I don't
Nashville?
know, honestly.
But he had a handful of extra base hits in their last series, and his OPS is up to 943 on the season, and he's been playing some third base. So he's a name you kind of see bouncing around Brewers Twitter just for how he's performed. Actually, it looks like his OPS is 959 most recently, so even better than I said.
Here's the segment that I want to talk. I figure it might take some time. So, Freddie Peralta apparently, John Heyman reports Freddie Peralta's tried to get a new extension with the Brewers. Kind of interesting because I felt like up to this point, I have been fine with the idea of letting him walk, just because um, I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like I'd rather pay a position player, and the Brewers have seemingly can only really pay one long-term big contract at a time. And I just like the odds of a position player not missing 15 months with a injury that you have with a pitcher, and that's just I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. But it kind of makes me think a little bit when the guy specifically, which not surprising, but specifically is, trying to get something done and already taken a discount. That's kind of the wrinkle. I would not feel bad, but I wouldn't anticipate him taking another kind of discount.
Yeah, for me, I definitely open to it, right? I don't know what that number exactly looks like, but I can't imagine it's super low. And for the reason that you were saying, it's just hard to rationalize that. Whether you want it or not, that's just not the world we live in as Brewers fans. Um, but I'd love to hear it out because I mean I do love Freddie. He seems like he's great in the locker room. He's been nothing but consistent and pretty available for the crew. And even when he's not good, he's pretty good. So I don't know. You don't know how much a guy just being there impacts the rest of the team too, right? Maybe we have some of that young talent, but maybe they want that consistent mainstay. Uh, what what is Coach Keane doing? um, uh, Coach Keane, what do you think about Freddie Peralta?
I mean, I love Fred. Don't get me wrong. I love Fred. And we talked about what you just said about the like what one person does to a team. I mean, isn't that what we said about Uke as well? I mean, I feel like if you can overcome the death of Bob Uecker, who everybody literally said was their favorite person on the planet, I feel like you can get over the absence in the clubhouse of one starting pitcher. Um, if he's very rarely do you see it come out with a small market team, especially of somebody trying to get an extension. Because doesn't that hurt your leverage a little bit if everybody knows that like you want to be there? I mean, I guess no, but it's just rare. I feel like that it comes out that the player lets it leak that he wants to stay on a small
Yeah,
market team, especially the
I,
Brewers. We rarely hear that. So I don't know. That it gave me optimism that maybe he will take kind of another, maybe a short like 4 year extension with a higher AAV or whatever. But I don't know. I'd have to dig into his like underlying metrics and make sure that he's still the pitcher that he was over the last couple of years, which I assume he will be. So I don't have a problem with it. If they decided to pull the trigger on somebody, I'd be happy it was him. So I hope they actually do get it done. That would be nice. And I'm a huge record guy. Very rarely do Brewers pitchers get to stick around for like 15 years. Would be cool to see somebody do like 12 here. He'd probably lead the Brewers in wins, strikeouts, everything. So I'm all for it just for that.
yeah, I was gonna say I
Yeah,
think part of it is we have some of that leverage because he's still under control another year or two. Is it one more year after this year?
yeah, one more year after this year.
Yeah. So that might be part of his motivation to try to start pushing it, but it's also would make sense for us to get it done now as well. But to Kian's question, I think his metrics really do look about as good as he normally does. Maybe he's not straight. I mean, I don't know. Everything's pretty good. Whereas the Corbin Burnses of the world kind of did have a downturn in some of those metrics, like a strikeout and stuff like that. But no, he's still got good numbers, and I mean, he's still pretty young. He's only 29. I don't see why he won't be a good pitcher into his mid 30s. So, um, definitely something to investigate, and I trust the Brewers aren't gonna overpay him or anything like that. They know what we can spend and what they think he's worth, and we just talked about the abundance of pitchers we have in the org, so you got to make it worth our time, I think, for us to want to do it. Um, but yeah, what do you think, Scoop?
I don't I don't know. I think it just fully depends on the price, and that's what I was going to bring up is just some comparisons the article reference. Crochet just got 170 over 6 years. You'd have to imagine you get, well, I think, less than Crochet, but Crochet didn't have as much of a track record, I guess, as Freddy. He had some good numbers, but they were small samples. And that was over 6 years. Jose Barrios just got 131 over 7 years. Glass now 112 over four. Luis Castillo 108 over five. Musgrove 100 over five. So it's kind of a varying
Yeah,
group
I think he's
there.
like
Some
that
are good, some are
20 a
bad.
year kind of deal.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because it's a guy like, it's a guy that's been here. It's one of the last remnants of the team that actually won a playoff series, him and Yelich. And um I'd like to keep him around for sure, but I also don't want to just be paying Yelich and Freddie and that's it. So if it means that we're still not going to raise the payroll, then I guess I don't want it because I don't know. At some point, I need to see teams that look more like the 2018 Brewers and not the Brewers since. Not that they've been bad, but it just I don't know. I feel like we need more stars to win a World Series at some way, or
Yeah,
at least more higher level role players. Like our team OPS, like we look at the lineups daily, and I like this team a lot, but there's days where you have like two guys hitting with 700 OPSs. So if you get Freddie and you keep your payroll at 100 million, I don't know that I like that a lot because then you got to negate Reese Hoskins, and he's one of the only guys that has been performing and slugging, I guess. I
yeah,
don't
he's cooled down a bit, but yeah, I think the one thing is if there is a commitment to Freddie for another whatever 3, 4, 5 years, that's when you see all the I don't know, half those names we talked about of young arms would be dealt for to supplement the field talent, and at a more affordable price, assuming obviously we're trading for maybe some younger-ish stars or at least contributors. And I'm sure there's some value out there for a guy like Tobias Myers or Chad Patrick, or can't imagine we'd want to deal Miz, but who knows?
Hmm.
The asking price for a guy that throws 102, you probably can just about set it. But there'd be a lot of decisions to be made. But it might not be the worst thing if we want to be a team that's really making a run at something. If you tie down a guy that you know can win you a game on any given day, and we have some of the rest of that talent throughout the org. But we'll have to see.
Damn, that conversation went from would you extend Freddie Peralta to, you know, Miz isn't off the market either. That took a dark turn. You guys should have just said yes or no.
What
Maybe
would
we
you
could
do,
press.
Kian? What would you do?
Well, I mean, if I'm Matt Arnold and you take out every piece of like everything that you've ever done over your entire like tenure as, GM and VP of player ops or whatever his title is, and you either trade him or you let him walk. If you were going to put that money into a position player, would it not have been Willie Adames last year? I mean, I can see the red flags and he's not even playing that well, but if you're talking about a guy who is like clubhouse friendly and, leader and somebody who is good at the game of baseball that you're willing to extend, if you were going to choose between Freddie Peralta and Willie Adames, which one would you choose?
Yeah, but I didn't. I think Willie got. It wasn't that I didn't want Willie. I just thought Willie was going to get overpaid, like more for sure by somebody, and his defense was on the down, like on the decline. That was the difference for me. I would have taken Willie Thomas back on a discount, but I didn't see it happening. I don't know. I guess that's the difference I see.
I guess. I just, how old is Freddie? Is he what, 30,
29.
31?
Yeah, he'll be.
29? That's
I
it?
mean, I don't know when his birthday is, but 29
So he'll
Every
be
currently.
either 30 or 31 by the time he's supposed to hit free agency. If you re-sign him and take away the, because I'm sure it's a club option next year, and you just give him, you know, $17 million over the next 4 seasons. So that way you're paying for age 30 through 33 or 31 through 34. Would you do that deal?
I would.
Yeah, I'd do that deal for sure. I just think that every like big contract we've ever had uh or offered has been a discount. We've never been close to what guys get on the open market. So I guess it's just always gonna have that caveat for me. The fact that he's talking about wanting to stay tells me that he's willing to, but it's just we got to see. It's like it's offering CC Sabathia and Prince Fielder $100 million deals, and then them going and getting 150, $200 million deals. Like if Yelich would have hit the open market after 2019, he would have got more than 200 million, I think.
Yeah, but it's a
Runs.
little different.
No, it
I
is.
mean,
It is
Freddie's a
different.
one all-star. He's really good, but he's
Yeah.
not CC Sabathia, prime Yelich, prime Prince. But yeah,
Or I don't
he's
even. I wouldn't even put him with Prince Fielder. I mean, Prince
yeah.
coming off that 2011 season was like him. Braun was one, and what he was 3 or 4 or 5 in final MVP. Like
Mhm.
that's rare. You see two guys finish top five. Usually one neither wins. So I mean, Prince was coming off a great year. I wouldn't discredit what he was doing either. Not
No,
that
yeah.
Freddie's not a superstar, but I mean, he's your ace. He's a top 25, 20 pitcher in Major League
And he's
Baseball
he's
right
been an
now.
all-star, and who knows, he might be ours this year. But
All right. Upcoming schedule. At the Cubs, at the Twins, back home against the Pirates and the Rockies. Um, yeah,
I mean,
Misiorowski at Wrigley. Kind of.
last sorry, I was gonna say last three series though we're what 500 I think on the dot since we last talked, and that's exactly kind of we knew we had a really tough schedule here. We had to weather a storm, and we had the last two legs of that with the Cubs and Twins, and I think I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the Cubs series sets up pretty well with the arms we have ready to go against what they have. So hopefully we can win that series and wouldn't mind swiping one from the Twins, and we end up having a nice little performance against some of these better, whatever, higher achieving teams we had to play. And we can roll the Pirates and the Rockies.
I've said everything I wanted to say, but we got 3 minutes if anyone wants to take us home with the final thought.
Ian, how are
sure.
the Chinooks, Ian?
We're on the up and coming, I would say. We're doing pretty decent. A little story about the Northwoods League. Caleb Durbin, obviously famous for being a Fond du Lac dock spider. I thought that was pretty cool that he went back there and the Brewers collabed with them. These little leagues, man, it's surprising how many Major League Baseball players come out. And they only play for these teams when they're really like true freshmen who didn't touch the field or redshirt, freshman or sophomore. So it's really cool to like see the backstory of a team like this and see how many guys really did play there and you would have no idea. I guess that's the love of the game.
So Victor Scott standing next to him on the base pass this weekend. Another guy on that same team. So kind of cool. And Chandler Simpson. Yeah, I got nothing, Cole.
Yeah, I don't either. I think we're kind of at that
Holy
time,
shit, he's finally out of words.
kind of at that time of the season where we really find out who's going for it and who's not and who's made of it to make that run. So I think the next whatever month, once the All-Star break and all that comes around, we're gonna see what the rest of our summer will look like.
I believe they call it the dog days.
Yeah.
All right. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers.
Oh, Chinooks.